Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to another episode of
80-bit Pod Smash,
where gaming goes to grab a beer. We are your hosts,
Penguin and Termite. I am Penguin.
I am Termite, and we are a weekly video game podcast smashing together ideas that you care about with video games.
That's right, and tonight we are going down the rabbit hole, and we are talking about what is official, I don't know if it's officially, unofficially called the Blue Box Conspiracy in video games. And it is a big old conspiracy theory involving a pretty huge name in the video game industry that we frequently talk about on this podcast. But we'll dig into all the details about that and everything when we get to our main topic. But first, we are where gaming goes to grab a beer. So what are you drinking tonight?
I went to Virginia Beach for work. It was a one-night overnight trip last week, and while I was down there, I knew it was there. I went to Commonwealth Brewing Company, and I've discovered Commonwealth here because they distribute to our local brew exchange in Fredericksburg, and that's how I discovered them, which is why when I saw they were there, I was very excited. And I'm drinking a Copacabana, is what it's called. It's a double IPA with strawberry, raspberry, banana, Mexican vanilla beans, and lactose.
Nice.
And it tastes every bit like that. It's kind of an IPA milkshake. It has all the hops you get from an IPA, along with the tartness and sourness of raspberries, with the sweet, mellow undertones of banana, Mexican vanilla beans, and strawberries. So thick, because it is made with lactose, so it fills your mouth. It goes down like a milkshake. It's delicious. It's 8.6%.
Sweet. Yeah, I am just drinking my last, what do you call it? Oktoberfest, Sam Adams Oktoberfest. So
right.
this is the time of year for Sam Adams Oktoberfest, because literally if you try to get it after September, like after August, it's impossible to get. It's not on the shelves anywhere. It's ridiculous. Yep. So yes, it's a bit of a late summer, pre-fall tradition for me is to get my hands on a 6-pack and drink it. So crisp, amber, lagery as always.
Just a 6-pack for the whole year?
Yeah, why not? You don't need more than that.
Oh, I want to get like a 28-pack and just have it on hand to last like all fall.
Nah, because once it's, all fall. That makes sense. I mean, yes, that would be nice, but, I don't need any more than 6. Like, if I drink 6 a year, and not even that, because I share them, too. I shared them, in this case, with a couple people. So, the 2 or 3 a year I get. It's not that great. I mean, it's not amazing. It's not, like, the best beer ever. It's a good beer, and I like to enjoy it around this time of year. I'd prefer to enjoy it more deeply into the fall, but
you can't buy it then.
Exactly.
Yep.
So cool. All right. Well, anything you want to talk about before we get into things?
Well, Termite is in the thick of relocating. I think by the time this episode launches, everyone who will have known, who I want to tell them directly. Yeah, so my wife got a job in Charlottesville. And now we are in the thick of getting our house ready to sell and putting it on the market, getting it ready to show, and going through the lender process and house buying process as well. And it's the most stressful time of my life.
That's big news, man. That's crazy. I mean, moving, weddings, funerals, and what is the other one? There's like 5 things. Divorce, I think.
Babies.
Like the most stressful. I think. Well, yeah, babies, of course, but like, I think there's like 5 events that are like the most stressful, and I actually don't think that. I think that it's weddings, funerals, or death.
Here it is. Top 5 most stressful life events include death of a loved one, divorce, moving, major illness or injury, and job loss. Yeah, so kids don't even make the top 5 compared to those. Yeah. And moving is up there with personal injury and death of a loved one. Like, what? Yeah. So yeah, it's and I can't imagine. I mean, last move that we made was from an apartment to our house. Yep. So going from a rental situation to an ownership situation, I can't imagine. I've always wondered how, like, hundreds of people, thousands of people do this every day, but like how do you make the process of like selling your home in order to have enough money to buy a new home? Like, how do you make that work? It's like, I know that it happens, and I know there are professionals to help ease that transition, but it's just mind-boggling to me that it happens in such frequency when it seems like such a daunting prospect. But hence the stress. Hence the stress, and the turnaround was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 weeks to get everything done. From the offer letter that my wife received to her start date was 7 weeks. And we can't do anything lender-wise until we have an offer letter, and you can't do anything realtor-wise until you have a lender. Mm-hmm. So the way the order of the process starts, it starts with the offer letter. So 7 weeks is the turnaround to both sell your home, which requires a crap ton of work to get it presentable. Much like if you sell your car, you're going to go wash it, vacuum it, wax it, and you're going to get it looking its absolute best so someone would want to buy it. You have to do the same thing to a house. And that's more than just power washing, but it's also repairing all those small little things you put off. And so I've spent the entire weekend, 3-day weekend over Labor Day weekend, doing nothing but house stuff, from as simple as painting a wall in my son's room to everything as complicated as my electrician father rewiring a light socket because it would fail inspection, which was super complicated, involving a bunch of stuff. Not complicated for him, but for me, I've done out of my control. Drywalling, fixing drywall spots in our garage ceiling that were like chipping away. I had to go in and like put spackle and tape and do all these things. It just takes so much time. Hanging curtain closets, replacing closet doors, draining and flushing your water heater. Apparently you're supposed to do that. It's been a lot. Replacing and hanging a light. So every single room in the house needs attention. In addition to all of that work, we have to declutter and stage our house, which means we have a lot of stuff everywhere. So it's more than just like tidying up. It's putting the things you're not going to use for a while, like in a box, away, stacked somewhere. And we have a garage and the room with which I'm recording now. And we have to make every room in the house look awesome and immaculate, which means restricting all the things that you would normally have in a room to nothing. And packing that stuff in boxes. So we're almost like preemptive moving. We're like starting to pack now, but for the purposes of making the house look good, not for the purposes of shipping yet. So yeah, all that while working with painters and stainers and tree removers and working with my realtor and lending agents and getting all the documentation that you need to get together to apply for a mortgage loan, which is insane. I've been up to like 10 or 11 o'clock for the last 4 nights in a row doing stuff with all of that. So that's why it is one of the most stressful events in your life.
Well, on the other side of it, you'll be in a new city, new place, kind of a new start for your family.
Yeah.
Your wife will have a new job, which she's been working for a while now. So, I mean, it sucks now, but on the other side of it, it's going to be good, I think.
Yep. So, I think so too.
Huzzah. All right. Let's see. I am wrestling right now with 2 sick kids. And that's not fun. So
that's what hell is made of.
It really, really sucks. So anyways, I guess that dealing with stressful moves and stressful parenting situations are not our favorite thing, but
doing this podcast is our favorite thing. Favorite things.
It is a segment of our show where we share with you something that we have discovered or rediscovered or experienced this week in hopes that you might be inspired to go out and find your next favorite thing. So,
hot.
I guess I will start. My favorite thing right now is I have rediscovered Pokemon Go with my son, and we are having a blast with it. So much so that I think my wife is already annoyed.
Yeah.
And definitely not playing the game, the spirit of how it's meant to be played, where it encourages you to actually go out and walk. Now just getting free daily boxes of Pokeballs and stuff, and then catching as many as we can for the day, and then we're done. So we're really super casual, definitely not adhering to the spirit of the exercise the game is meant to inspire, but he's having a lot of fun. He's always asking for it to the point of annoyance at this point. Pokemon Go, Poke-on, that's how you pronounce it. Pokemon Go. It's but he's having fun and he's enjoying it. And again, he's been sick the last couple of days, so like having something that he can have to experience joy that is, something that we share, that we both enjoy. Has been great because again, a 2-year-old, it's like the things they enjoy are like reading books and playing with toys and watching crappy TV shows, and I enjoy little bits of all of those things, but I don't fully enjoy any of those things. So having something that me and my 2-year-old both actually like to do is awesome. So if you have, and the game's evolved so much in the like 5 years since I played it. Like there's all the new Pokemon, there's all these new systems and things you can collect. Mm-hmm. So if you have lapsed on Pokemon Go, you should check it out. Maybe get a little bit of exercise too.
Yeah, they've done a whole lot. You can fight Team Rocket. Did you see that?
Yeah. He's Team Rocket. One Team Rocket. This is his like favorite thing right now is fighting Team Rocket.
Yeah, a little hot air balloon floating in the sky. Yep. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What's your favorite thing?
My favorite thing, initially, my instinct was to say, I got these cable ties that are Velcro that I've known about for years and never really thought about it, just use them all the time. But when I was packing up my video game room and I was unplugging all of my consoles and boxing them up, I was using these cable ties and I was like, these are amazing and they're my favorite thing. So it's a little piece of Velcro that you loop around the wire and you stick it through a tiny little hole and you cinch them and then they're Velcro. They don't require, and they're super easy to take off and reuse, and they're very, very handy and they're super cheap too. So yay for cable ties. That's the simple joy of my life this week. Nice. Although I will say, after thinking, so that was my, impulsive answer. The actual answer was we got to hang out with y'all and meet Lila and hang out in your house with your puppies and run around in the backyard.
Almost get bitten by various...
Oh, man, there was a Black Widow spider.
That was nuts. I have never... It's so crazy how you guys come over like once for the first time in like months and you stumble across a black... You stumble across a Black Widow spider in my yard. I was like, what? I've not seen them since we moved here, though I know they're part of the area. Mm-hmm. But that was the crazy part.
It was nuts. And then right after discovering a Black Widow, there was a small black snake also crawling out from the sandbox.
The snake's still there. I went back and got a better look at it. It's totally a garter snake.
Oh, garter snake. Okay.
Garter snake. Yeah. It has the like yellow stripes like kind of parallel along its back.
Non-venomous.
Totally non-venomous. Yeah. Actually, ironically, probably more helpful, especially if I've got Black Widows in my yard.
Maybe he's hungry for some Black Widows.
Well, and that sandbox, I was thinking about it later. I was like, that sandbox is probably the perfect little home for him. Like you always put pet snakes in like a little sandy terrarium kind of thing or whatever. And so I'm like, oh yeah. So I've got a little pet snake now, I guess.
Yep.
We'll name him Ekans.
Yeah,
Ekans. So, well, cool. I'm glad you guys. We had a good time too. It was great. It was great seeing y'all. So, thanks for coming up. Although you may have been the ones who brought the sickness into our home. So,
I'm not sure about that. Yeah,
that or we got you sick. I don't know. Like our kids separately started feeling sick after like 24 hours of hanging out together. So, not necessarily. Yeah, we could have given it to you. I don't know, but
I mean, Sam is in first grade, so he could have brought it home.
Yeah,
and Jude does go to daycare twice a week, so I blame the kids. They're all petri dishes.
They're all petri dishes, yeah. Yep. At least as long as it's not coronavirus, then it's not a big deal, right? So, and so far, all evidence points to it just being a cold.
Yep.
So, a nasty one for poor Gavin, but a cold nonetheless.
Oh, poor boy.
So, I know. He's having a rough to go with it. But, all right, cool. Well, that's favorite things, which leads us to our final segment, which is... DLC.
Downloadable content.
Downloadable content is a segment of our show where we have a discussion you wouldn't normally have about video games, some kind of like a sort of gimmicky, gamey kind of question and answer prompt that is all made up on the spot and not pre-rehearsed. We will sometimes prepare the prompt ahead of time, but we definitely don't know like what each other's going to say. We don't plan this out or coordinate it in advance. We literally just talk about it live. So the prompt that I prepared ahead of time this week in honor of this conspiracy theory, which is all about like viral marketing and, kind of like fans putting together pieces, almost like a scavenger hunt style of marketing, very much in the same vein as Kojima's PT. In fact, Kojima will be brought up. Spoiler alert, I guess. And so, in honor of Hideo Kojima and his style of marketing, I want you to pick any game. It can be a game that is already out. It can be a game that's coming out soon. It could be a game that you want to see, like, if they were to create Bloodborne 2, for example. It's a game that's not announced, not confirmed, lots of rumors surrounding it, but it's not actually confirmed. But if you were to be put in charge of the marketing team for a game, how would you market it if you were going to market it like this? Like, where you are basically laying hints and clues for the players to discover in sort of a viral way or scavenger hunt kind of way. So most importantly, pick a game.
Okay, I've got a game. Do you want me to just tell you?
Yeah.
Okay, it's the newest entry in the F-Zero franchise.
Oh, nice.
A racing game that has gone dormant and sleep since the GameCube, I believe.
Nice. Okay.
Let me verify that. F-Zero. There was an arcade game called F-Zero AX and a GameCube game, GX, that released at the same time. And I do believe, that was in 2003. And there was apparently an F-Zero Climax for Game Boy Advance that came out in Japan only. And that was 2004. So anyway, it's been dead for almost 20 years.
Okay, so the first thing you do is you come up with if you're Nintendo, right? If you're in charge of the F-Zero, do you happen to know if there's any like single person behind the F-Zero franchise? Like,
come on,
is it
really?
Sakurai?
No. Oh, you mean developer?
Developer, like single.
Okay, sorry. I thought you meant like character. I was like, you play Smash. Like,
no,
what?
No, of course I know.
Okay.
Captain. Yeah, so going off of that, then you make so you come up with like a bogus indie studio, like a brand new up and coming indie studio, no connection immediately obvious to Nintendo at all.
Oh, there's a creator. I think everyone knows who it is.
Who is it? Is it Miyamoto?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's good because that's even better because now we have like a personality to latch onto. So you're Miyamoto and you're doing this, right? Miyamoto's like and Nintendo, but no immediate connections to Miyamoto or Nintendo. And instead you have you've come up with this like bogus studio and you name it something like, I don't know, Horus Games. Horus, of course, to the eagle-eyed listener, eagle-eared, whatever, to the close listener that would maybe like make the connection that I'm making here. I'm trying to like multiple removals, but enough that it's a clear connection here. Horus, of course, being the god, Egyptian god of one of the Egyptian son of the sun god, I think, son of Ra, and he's commonly depicted as having the head of and here it is, falcon. So Horus Games is your bogus studio, your Miyamoto, and Horus Games is talking about, I guess, like they start the rumor mill that they're working on, 4chan and stuff. They start the rumor mill that they're working on some kind of racing game, and that's it. That's all the hints we have right now. Is
there's Horus another Studios one. I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to get it. Ooh, the original studio is in Kyoto. So Kyoto translates from English, it's a Japanese town name, to capital. So I was hoping it would be a little bit more creative than that, but that studio would have to be located in capital of something. So,
or you name, like, you have a fake head of the head of Horus Studios is something like, Michael
Horus
Capital
Studios could be based in Tokyo, which is the capital of Japan. But if you look close enough, you'll see Eagle Eye, capital translates to Kyoto, and that's the studio EAD that developed the original F-Zero.
Or you have, like, again, you use capital as like a last name, so you create you have Miyamoto, basically. It's not him, he's John Capital, right? Like, a new developer, head of Horus Studios, John Capital. And
let's translate Miyamoto, base of the shrine. Man, so you can do so much with all of these translations. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
There's a lot to work with here.
Project. They call there you go. And then the game they're working on is Project Shrine Base, right there.
Yep.
Or just Project Shrine.
Yep.
And it's supposedly a racing game, but of course people know it's supposed to not elicit any suspicions of F-Zero. But then they release a Super Bowl trailer, and they reveal that it's F-Zero, whatever the latest one is. But
so the game gets revealed, the reality of it?
It gets revealed eventually, yeah, of course, because like PT did, where it was like they had the whole playable trailer, but when you quote beat it after years or after weeks and weeks of hype or whatever, then was it days? It was probably only days. But when they beat it, then it was like
I think it took the collective internet
Silent
9 days to come up with a reproducible.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yep, solution.
Yeah, there you go. So and then it was like Silent Hill's playable trailer or whatever, or playable teaser. But they, nobody, it wasn't connected to it. So there's got to be some big unveiling of it. Maybe at like a NASCAR thing. Then there's
it'd be an F1 thing.
Would be an F1. Okay, whatever. Yeah. So Formula, that's even better. Yeah, there's closer ties there. So like a big Formula One race, they roll out like they call it, they connect it somehow to Horus, and then Horus Games or whatever. Like they have Horus Games is about to unveil their new game alongside, and they have like a car. They have like an F-Zero car come out, like an actual F-Zero functional car come out and make a lap along the Formula One track or whatever, and everyone's like, "It's F-Zero!" Yeah, that's it. That's how they do it. That'd be awesome, actually. I'd be I'd be stoked about that. So yeah. All right. Any other thoughts? Any other crazy little ways you would tease this?
It'd be kind of fun to like do a pop-up somewhere where it's like available to play at like a bar in some weird town in the middle of like some weird strange place. I'm guessing like in a Scandinavian town they have like a pop-up bar and like it just happens to have this new build of the F-Zero game. And it's like, oh, we're having a racing game tournament. And it's like generically popular, but it's this obscure, super underground, maybe no one actually knows what it is. And so it might make the internet, but all it would take is one person to really know. And then like now it's all over Reddit and someone can see it. And then the bar's gone. It's a pop-up bar. So it's only there for like a weekend. That'd be sweet.
Nice.
Yep.
All right. I'm into it. So listeners, how would you market this game? How would you market a new F-Zero game in this sort of style where you're leaving breadcrumbs for the players and people of the internet, Redditors or whatever, to discover? We want to hear those thoughts, and you can share them with us in the places Termite's going to tell you in a second.
You can find us at 80bitpodsmash.com, 80bitpodsmash.com. That's our landing website with links to all of our podcast platforms of your choice: Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, etc. There's also a link to our RSS feed for input into any third-party app of your choice. If we're not somewhere you want us to be, let us know, and we'll do the work to put ourselves there. We also have links to all of our social media outlets: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. We have a link to our Discord server in all of our show notes, and you can find us live a couple of times a week, most weeks, at twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash, where during the pandemic, we started a news show to go live on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern, and we started a gameplay live stream on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. All of that information and all those things usually go to YouTube, and you can find our YouTube page also at 80bitpodsmash.com. So go check us out. Hit us up in chat. Hit us up on our social media platforms. Start a conversation in Discord. Start a thread in Reddit and link stuff to it. Have a good time. Come follow us. We're fun.
Hooray! All right, everybody. So go put on your tinfoil hats.
Here we
because we're going to dig into this absolutely insane conspiracy theory in the gaming world. I don't know if this is the biggest one I've ever seen, but it's certainly the biggest one to happen in a while, I think. So let's dig into it. So we are calling this Blue Box Conspiracy or the Abandoned Conspiracy, one or the other. You can probably find it if you look up either of those. The subreddit that was dedicated to it is Blue Box Conspiracy. However, I hopped on there today, and apparently the mods shut it down because the community around it got really toxic, I guess.
No surprise there.
Yeah, surprise. So I guess people were being like doxxed and stuff like that. And, and so the mods were just like, you know what? We're shutting this whole thing down. And we want nothing to do with it in the future or whatever. I was like, wow. So some good old Reddit drama to round things out, I guess, this whole thing. But or to put a button on this story. But yeah, we're going to get into this. I guess sort of as a disclaimer, we're going to talk about it more so from sort of like how, sort of an academic study as to how these things happen and how, like, what kinds of things people look for. You probably already got some hints based on our DLC as the kind of things that are going to pop up as, quote, evidence in this episode. So when we go through all the evidence, that will be evidence, quote unquote, that will be the kind of meat of our episode. But we wanted to sort of start off by saying that we're not necessarily espousing this theory. We're not necessarily saying that we agree with it or anything like that. In fact, we probably both don't think it's actually real. But that's the fun of conspiracy theories in a lot of ways, is entertaining them, not because you actually think that they're real, but because they're fascinating to see how they develop and how they progress and how they get more and more complicated as time goes on in it. So
full disclosure, or at least a disclaimer, I should say, anytime a conspiracy theory starts to become problematic and hurt the lives of others, it is time to shut down and walk away.
Shut it
down.
down.
Talked about how this subreddit for the conspiracy we're talking about, it got toxic, and so they shut it down, rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
If you're hurting someone because you believe in some conspiracy and it's problematic and wrecking relationships or causing health problems, hint, hint, pandemic 2020, please reconsider your stance on these conspiracies and love others and care for other people.
And take care of yourself too, because like a lot of times, you may not be actively hurting someone, but you may be harming yourself by, becoming obsessive about this kind of thing. It can lead to a lot of unhealthy behavior, both towards others and towards yourself. So just, take a breath. Breathe the air. The reality, I think I used to always say, when the whole conspiracies around the pandemic came out, and I think I even said this on the podcast, it's important to remember that people latch on to conspiracies because usually conspiracies are about somebody being in control. And that in its own way is a comforting thing. It is comforting to know that somebody's in control. Mm-hmm. Somebody that could possibly be overthrown, and then you can make things right. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, as long as somebody's in control, that's more comfortable to people than the reality. And the reality is, we're all just clinging to a rock that's hurtling through space, and, any number of cataclysmic astral events could happen to us in a minute that would wipe out our... everything. Our planet could just get blown up at any second, and that is a terrifying. The fact that it's all just kind of chaos. No one's in control.
That's it.
Is a little. And even if you believe in God, because we can't know his because we can't know his plans, because we can't know his will, then for all intents and purposes, his influence in our lives is a chaotic, uncontrollable thing. So just, enjoy the fact that you can walk outside right now and breathe fresh air and, enjoy the little things. Okay, huge long disclaimers. Let's jump into this.
Let's do it.
What is the Blue Box Conspiracy? What, like, on the front end, what is the sort of like a 2-3 sentence version of what the Blue Box Conspiracy is?
Blue Box Game Studios has unveiled a video game. It's an indie horror game called Abandoned, and the internet ran wild thinking that the legendary Hideo Kojima was involved, and it's actually the long-awaited Silent Hill game from Konami.
Mm-hmm. That's it. On the face, if you were to come up with a title or a code name for a game that was, for all intents and purposes, abandoned, I feel like that's kind of an obvious potential little hint there. Silent Hills was a project that was abandoned, and now this horror game that's very, very Silent Hills-esque is being teased and being developed for PS5, and it's titled Abandoned, or its code name, its project name is Abandoned. On the face, there's even a connection right there.
Could anyone make the argument that Hideo Kojima abandoned Konami?
Yeah, or that Konami abandoned Kojima, or that the two of them together abandoned this game. 100%. Yep. So, anyways, that's exactly it. I couldn't have said it better myself. That is essentially the Blue Box Conspiracy in a nutshell. So let's talk about kind of the major players and sort of the context and background. So before we get into any of the actual, quote unquote evidence linking this idea together, let's just talk about the background and some of the context that, and also some of the names that we're going to be talking about, but also some of the context that surrounds this entire conspiracy theory. Yep. So obviously the two biggest names that we're going to be talking about of actual people are Hideo Kojima, obviously, the creator of Metal Gear Solid,
Silent Hill,
Death Stranding. Did he create the original Silent Hill, or did he just, was he about to do the last one, like the most recent one? I don't remember.
That is a fantastic, detail-oriented question. That, yes, he directed Silent Hills. That's the plural one.
That's the new one. That was I'm talking about the original, first few games. I feel like he wasn't involved in them, but he was.
Nope. He was not.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, his big claim to fame is Metal Gear Solid. He was going to inherit the most recent Silent Hill game, and also he made Death Stranding as a result of that falling through. So then there's the head of Blue Box Studios, which is a guy named, and I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but it is Hassan Karaman. Is that
sure,
it?
Karaman. Sounds
Karaman,
good.
Yeah. Karaman, yeah. So Hassan Karaman is the head of the studio Blue Box. Now, this is a person that is real, or at least, again, we'll get into sort of the conspiracies around him, the theories around him, but on its face, we've seen this person. He's made videos. He has, he has things that connect him to the real world. Like, for example, he was making, like, giving tech advice on Unreal Engine. Like, there's actual posts you can find of him giving people tech advice in Unreal Engine. So he is a game developer, right? Like, he at least has some experience and connection. And Blue Box Studios as a studio has existed prior to this. It's not just completely made up out of thin air. They have worked on games and done Kickstarter projects, et cetera, in the past. So Blue Box and Hasan Karaman are actual developers, obviously. And then the kind of final major player involved in this, of course, is Konami itself. So again, the background here is that Silent Hills was going to be the most recent in the Silent Hill franchise. We've talked about this plenty of times on the podcast. Hideo Kojima, Guillermo del Toro were working on it together. Norman Reedus was in it, and they teased this game by releasing a playable trailer that was they came up with a whole bogus studio. The 7780s project or whatever was the bogus studio that they made, and they released this game that nobody knew what it was, and it turned out to just be a playable teaser for Silent Hills. And so that's kind of like, again, Hideo Kojima has a history of this.
If we get into Kojima's history with how they marketed and revealed Metal Gear Solid 5 in 2012. I was
going to bring that up next. Exactly.
There was a Moby Dick Game Studios, which was a fake game studio name. The identity was later revealed to be a creation of Kojima. So there was a name, I can't even say it, Joachim.
I think it would be Joachim.
Joachim Magrin. Magrin, which was an anagram for Kojima.
Yep.
They unveiled a game called The Phantom Pain before the reveal of what was really going on. So 2 years later, around 2014, the similar stunt was PT, as you just said. So back 2 years prior to PT, that whole Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain, fake game studio, fake name.
Yep. So there's a pattern here, right? Mm-hmm. Fake game studio, fake developer person behind it who giving interviews and stuff like that turns out to be Kojima himself. So we'll dig into that in a little bit, but I'm trying to think if there's any other context.
Or Blue Box itself, like the actual game
Blue Box
company?
Yeah. So what Blue Box has worked on, so they
are a very troubled studio that have actually not have any success yet ever.
Exactly. Yep.
So let's see. There's a little bit of a source of a timeline that I'm reading from superjumpmagazine.com. I hope to have that link in the show notes. If I don't, let me know. So Blue Box Games is a Dutch game studio, again, Hasan Karaman, made up of 10 full-time developers and 50 freelancers, outsourced studios working on Abandon. But the start of Abandoned Story is not the start of Blue Box. It was actually founded back in 2015. They've yet to release a full game. So in February, there was a game called Rewind. It was a registered trademark of Blue Box Game Studios. In March of that year, there was a Kickstarter launched, which announced a playable teaser would be coming shortly. Not long after that, the playable teaser was delayed due to technical issues, and then even the Kickstarter was fully canceled. And according to the studio, it's because Blue Box has now received private investments. You're like, oh, okay. So it was then renamed to Rewind, Voices of the Past. Influx of cash allowed the studio to rework aspects of the game. The scope would supposedly expand to such a degree that it was beyond the capabilities of the small studio, and the project was halted. A few months later, in September of 2015, the project would be revived. But this lasted a few months as the project was seemingly canceled completely, and all references to it were removed. Then in March of 2017, which is almost 2 full years later, Blue Box announced yet another project called The Whisperer, destined to release that coming June, according to the developers. Instead of the outright canceling Rewind, it morphed into The Whisperer. So they changed the narrative 2 years later. Like, Rewind actually didn't go anywhere. We're renaming it. It's called The Whisperer. Some of the same stuff would be there. It would eventually release. It was a free-to-play mobile game with a €1 purchase to turn off the ads, and was shortly pulled from the store. So Blue Box failed yet again. Mm-hmm. Another early Blue Box project would include a game called The Lost Tape, which was another game that would use concepts from Rewind, but was once again canceled before anything was released. There was also Tales of the Six Swords, which was yet another free-to-play mobile game that would actually see the light of day, but was once again pulled from the Android Play Store, citing limited file sizes as the factor in its removal. Then there was The Haunting, inspired by a popular Japanese horror game called Fatal Frame, and this would release on Steam Early Access in 2020 and has yet to see the long-promised large update To add insult to injury, The Haunting was removed from the store, and it was announced that development would be completed by an unknown indie studio called Create Q. Turns out Create Q is in fact a small development studio comprised of friends of Blue Box, who will be working on another game called The Haunting as a side project. So, The Haunting is the one in that story. In short, Blue Box Game Studios' history is less than stellar. Multiple projects announced, early in development, only to be canceled or completely reworked. And here we are with Abandoned coming up next. So, yes, Blue Box has never had a thing like out in the world that was like received and played. Everything was pulled. Everything was shut down. Everything was canceled. And here we are with Abandoned.
Here we are.
But even Abandoned did not do it's so bad. Abandoned would be announced on April 7th. You want to not talk about Abandoned yet?
Yeah.
It's just facts.
Let's hold off.
Hold off on Abandoned?
Yeah, okay. Let's hold off.
All right.
Cool, because there's again a bunch of stuff leading up to it. And in regards to what, if we're talking about this conspiracy theory, we'll eventually have to talk about what has come out for this game and what kinds of things have happened in this game space. So we'll talk about all that. So Okay, so let's get into it. So again, just for summarization purposes, before we jump into this, we have a massive video game celebrity with a project that fell through, a developer or a publisher that has seemingly expressed no interest in reviving it, and then we have this relatively unknown or very obscure, unknown failure of a studio, again, having never published anything of note. Not even anything small of note, just nothing has come out from them. And we have them basically teasing this PS5 exclusive that they're supposedly working, or that they are working on Sony with, because Sony is involved here too, right? Because Abandon is a PS5 exclusive, and there is, the people involved have talked about a connection there. So Sony is backing this project from this failed development studio, and the vibe of the game that they're coming out with is very much survival horror. So that's where we are, right? If I'm forgetting anything, details in summary, then apologies. So let's dig into the evidence, the so-called quote-unquote evidence. What are the pieces of things that are connecting this together? There's a great Reddit post here on this Blue Box conspiracy subreddit that does a pretty good job of collecting a lot of the tweets and stuff that have fueled this conspiracy theory, and tweets and articles, and so hopefully we'll try to include a link to that. It is 3 months old, so there's probably some stuff that it's missing from the last couple of months or so, but it is a pretty good job of summarizing some of the things that were really wildfire moments to this community and this conspiracy. So the tweet that started it all. Let's start
but it's
there.
It's gone. You can't click on it.
You can't?
It's been taken down.
Oh my gosh.
Tweet is unavailable.
Okay, well, fortunately, people have captured it. I believe I want to read it. I just want to I'm going to find this tweet because I want to basically read this thing.
Was it the first letter, last letter one?
Yes, that's the one. You have it?
Okay, it says, guess the name. Abandoned equals first letter S, last letter L, reveal closing in, hashtag PS5, hashtag exclusive. That was June 15th of 2021.
June 15th, this tweet drops from, is that Blue Box Studios official Twitter, or is it Hassan Karam? Okay, Blue Box tweets this tweet. Read it again for those who may have missed it or been driving and not realize what they were listening to.
Here's the tweet again, for those of y'all who missed it. Guess the name, : Abandon equals first letter S, last letter L, reveal closing in, hashtag PS5, hashtag exclusive.
So they're basically implying that Abandoned is not the ultimate name. It's not the final name of this game. It's the sort of project name. And what they're saying, or at least what they're implying with this tweet, is that the game actually has a real name, and that they're going to unveil it, and they're excited about the unveiling that's coming soon. Again, implying that there's something big to connect with this game. And then let's dig into what they actually say. They say, Abandoned equals first letter S, silent, last letter L, hill.
Yep. Reveal closing in.
Reveal closing in. So again, this is we're going to spend just a teeny bit more time on this little piece of evidence, because this is what really started it. Up until now, again, Abandoned was a thing. It was this horror game coming out by this failed development studio, Sony PS5 exclusive, Sony backed PS5 indie exclusive, whatever. And up until this point, that's all it was. And then now they're basically, the studio itself is drawing a potential direct or indirect link, we'll say, to the Silent Hills franchise. And from here,
the context is Kojima is developing games exclusively for Sony, which is Death Stranding and Kojima Studios.
Yeah.
Also, the original user discovered, there's the meaning of Hassan. You can actually translate that to Hideo. That happened before this tweet. So people were translating Hassan to Hideo. It's Turkey to Japanese. And they found, okay, Hideo. And then boom, Sony exclusive, SL, that's Kojima. And so that's the context. That's what started all of this wildfire. And Hideo Kojima is known for creating those 2 fake studios with both Metal Gear Solid 5 and PT.
Exactly. So all this sort of is coming now out of the woodwork, and all these connections are being made. Again, it's either super coincidental or it's by design or whatever, but HK, Hideo Kojima, Hassan Karam, HK, both names, initials are HK.
Yep.
So I'm just going to dig into some of this evidence here in this list. So Hideo Kojima used fake studio for, we already know that. Abandoned received a short teaser trailer on PlayStation YouTube channel alongside a blog post hinting for later release this year. Silent Hill composer also teased a new game reveal for summer 2021, which was shot down by Konami. The animated PS Studios logo that plays ahead of the first-party games glows blue for a moment, creating a blue box.
Oh, come on. That's
so some of these range from plausible to from relatively plausible to pretty ridiculous.
I'm watching that now, and they're okay. No, that's not a thing. Go away.
Recently, so Kojima at some point tweets. Let's see if this one
a picture of from Hideo Kojima. It's a picture of him holding a blue box, and I don't know what it actually is because it's Japanese, but it looks like an album.
Yeah, on June 9th, Hideo Kojima posts, I think so, this would have been before all this started, but June 9th, Hideo Kojima posts a tweet where he says, "Thanks, Harper Books. The Silent Wife by Kareen Slaughter, the latest in the Will Trent series, and the last window was kidnapping action. And then there's Joe Hill's story, Full Throttle. Here's so much interesting in short stories and long ones. Looking forward to both of them." So he's basically posting a couple pictures of some books that he recently read. One of which is a book that's the title is The Silent Wife, and the other notable one is
Joe Hill,
a short story by Joe Hill. So of course people are like, both Silent and Hill are in this tweet. Again, completely like independent things, but yes, Silent and Hill. He tweeted June 9th. He did tweet the words Silent and Hill on June 9th together in one tweet. So there are no saved trademarks for Blue Box Game Studios, but their trailers claim they do. So supposedly Blue Box Studios doesn't have any trademarks.
Sketchy.
Yeah, that one's a little sketchy. Blue Box Game Studios' YouTube banner is a picture of a bunch of hills. Blue Box Game Studios' logo is basically the PlayStation Studios logo's colors inverted.
Yep, same font too.
Here, there was some stuff connecting Jeff Keighley to it. Like, I guess Jeff Keighley follows them on Twitter. And Jason Schreier also wrote an article about this back in June. And he mentions that the situation grew stranger when Jeff Keighley, a video game personality who interviewed Kojima's fake CEO in 2013 and has helped reveal many of the director's games, hinted on Twitter that he would be involved in the unveiling of Abandoned. So supposedly Jeff Keighley is connected to this supposed unveiling of Abandoned. Again, Keighley and Kojima are longtime friends.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a thing that connects them. Gosh. So, at Abandoned... Oh, yeah. In the trailer, apparently, you can see the letters P and T covered by trees or something like that. Also, they would eventually do this like app, like trailer experience app. And in that, when it did eventually release, we'll get sort of more to that, but when it did eventually release, there was a man with an eye patch that, people immediately connected to Solid Snake. Twitter handle for Blue Box Game Studios is BB Game Studios.
BB Death Stranding
possibly
reference.
A Death Stranding reference, exactly. Twitter handle or the blog, the Blue Box, I think is probably just a typo there.
Yeah.
Tweeted in one of their tweets that their game would feature snowflakes of blood. This was used in PT's teaser. Blue Box Studios appears to have been found, so they're going kind of backwards in time here. Blue Box was apparently founded in 2015, exactly 1 year after the release of PT. Right around the time that Kojima was going through his, quote, breakup with Konami. Let's see. One of their canceled games, The Lost Tape, has a soundtrack from Metal Gear Solid 5. Most of the tweets made by Blue Box are at strange local time hours of around 3 a.m. Studio is claimed to be located in the Netherlands, but Japan is located, or Kojima is located in Japan, which is 7 hours ahead of time. So, again, or developers could just be staying up late because they're working. Hasan Karaman has an account on PSN with a total number of 1,238 trophies, the same name for the Japanese Silent Hill commercial.
Ooh.
Hasan has a YouTube channel called 2727. Silent Hills was canceled on April 27th. Ooh. So Hideo, translated from Japanese to Turkish, means Karaman, which is the last name of Hasan Karaman, head of Blue Box Games.
Sneaky Warrior, which was the PSN name for Hasan, now only has 6 trophies.
Oh, interesting. Whoa, the plot thickens.
And they were done in July 13th of 2010.
So again, that's just some of the little things. I know later something would happen where like the Hasan Karaman's Twitter or Facebook profile, he would update it to a picture of an island. And if you translate Kojima to English, it basically means small island. It's like little tiny connections. Some of the more plausible ones are the ones that Jason Schreier cites, where he basically says,
I lied. Sneaky Warrior with 2 R's is Hasan Karaman's actual PSN name, and his trophies are now set to private, so you can't see any of them. That makes more sense, given all of the hoopla.
Yeah, so things like people noticed how people on Reddit noticed how the Sony's blog post for Abandoned said that it was going to have realistic graphics, 4K resolution, 60 frames per second, benchmarks that would be difficult for most established game studios, let alone one like Blue Box. Sony didn't respond for comment. Blue Box claimed to have a team of more than 50 people working on the game, yet LinkedIn shows no employees other than Karaman. Blue Box also said the game will be revealed through a PS5 app designed as an interactive trailer, which has never been done before. I'm wondering if that's sarcasm. Because obviously PT.
Right.
And then there was the Keeley thing. So, yeah. Anything else you wanted to talk about in regards to things connecting Abandoned?
That's pretty much the timeline. I don't know what order all that stuff happened, but every time there was something connecting either Jeff Keighley, Kojima, Blue Box, Abandoned, Death Stranding, Silent Hill, Konami.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so, like, you could already picture the meme of Charlie from Philadelphia.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Always Sunny, thank you. Yeah, and like the wall with all of the lines thumbtacked up on the...
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a great episode.
Yeah, and so like you can already see that meme like forming right now. It's like all these connections are happening.
Mm-hmm.
So where this kind of gets into reality is Blue Box's marketing and PR. I don't know if you're ready to transition into their, like, what they're doing. They're not helping themselves, shooting themselves in the foot. Do we want to go there yet?
Well, I guess let's really quickly talk about like evidence against, I suppose. Like, so what are basically the major reasons for not believing this? And they're pretty simple. The first one is Hasan Karaman got on a video and said, I have no connection to Hideo Kojima or Konami or Abandoned is not a Silent Hills game. So flat out said from the developer, from the creators themselves, again, if we take it at face value, he has come forward and said that he has no connection. Could be a lie, misdirection. He could be an actor, but again, he clearly has some experience in video game development. And more importantly, Blue Box does have a history of doing stuff. Like that would be a lot to start faking. Like faking a bunch of failures just so that you could come out and make, or like release a game 6 years later. It seems like a lot to go into. That. So the more likely scenario is that he, this is a real development studio and it is making maybe some mistakes, as we may or may not argue, but they're just trying to market their game and have just made some unfortunate missteps along the way that have generated an overabundance of hype around something that is ultimately just a thing. I believe Konami or Sony, one of the bigger Japanese companies, has also said that Abandoned is not. Like, I think Konami has said that we currently have no plans on doing anything with Silent Hill or have had nothing to announce in that regard. And then I believe Sony has said that Abandoned has officially said, or at least side-skirted the issue. I don't think Kojima's made an official statement or not.
I don't think
to
so
my
either.
knowledge. Yeah. So, but there are people that are trying to say that it's not a thing. Again, if you are a believer, you're going to say they're lying as part of the PR campaign. If you are a non-believer, you're going to take them at face value and say, oh, of course they're coming out and debunking it. If you're on the fence, then, whatever, take each piece of evidence for or against as you will. But there are some things that would indicate that this is not the actual case. That is an unfortunate PR mishap, blunder.
Yes, and there is a timeline for that. So the first thing that happened, speaking of the PR timeline blunder, Blue Box responded to the initial surge in rumors, saying, we've received several emails regarding Hideo Kojima rumor. We have no association with Hideo Kojima, nor do we claim to have any association, nor was it our intention to claim such a statement. We are a small group of developers working on a passionate title we wanted to work on for a long time. We have been assisting other studios in the past with their projects, and we have wanted to work on our very first big project. While it is true that we've been working on small projects in the past, we certainly didn't use that for marketing purposes. We hope this has clarified this matter and hope to see you all in our very first gameplay reveal of Abandoned. And that was the team at Blue Box Game Studios. It did not break the momentum of the rumor mill. In fact, the rumors will only grow further.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as rumors and conspiracies are wont to do when people come out and actually try to challenge them.
I mean, it was Blue Box Game Studios that did tweet the guess the name Abandoned first letter S, last letter L. That was definitely Blue Box doing that.
Yes, for sure.
They later would continue to talk about this conspiracy with a different tweet that said, we wanted to set things straight. We have no relations with Konami. Silent Hill is owned by Konami. We do not have any relations with Hideo Kojima. It was never our intention to tease the name as Silent Hill. We sincerely apologize for this. That was in direct response to the guess the name tweet.
Yeah.
Seems a little okay, the rumor mill and everyone, are you blind? Like, you can look on the internet and see everyone thinks you're developing Silent Hill, and then you tweet Abandoned equals first letter S, last letter L. Of course you're going to have a surge of rumors. And then they tweet that, sincerely apologizing. And it continues. They keep going.
Yeah, and again, like I said, then, Hassan himself gets on YouTube and says, this is negatively affecting me, and affecting this game, blah, 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 blah. So it's, it's interesting. Anyways, so let's first, before we talk about, the effects that this has and kind of how these things, what this conspiracy says about the overall culture at large around it, I want to hear your thoughts. What is your final verdict? Is this real, or is this just unfortunate? Is this actually, is this going to be revealed as Silent Hill's Abandoned, Silent Hill 6 Abandoned, or whatever number they're on? Is that going to be a thing, or is it just is this just a small indie developer that is unfortunately hyping up their game in ways they probably shouldn't, playing with fire and in regards to their marketing campaign?
I think that's exactly what it is. So I'm going to lay out some facts. Kojima and Konami are arch nemesis. Is that they're to each other.
Nemesis, I believe, is nemesis is the plural.
That's it, right? They have zero connection with each other. They never talk about each other. They don't look at each other. They don't mention each other. They don't even talk about their IP. Metal Gear and Silent Hill are 1,000% Konami's to deal with. Kojima has never said, tweeted, talked about, mentioned any of those IP. He is only focused on his own studio and his own thing. There's zero reason that they would ever, they are oil and water. They're never coming together. So that's the first fact that has been proven a million times. Just look at how they've interacted over the last 5 years since the whole thing went down. So that's that. I think Blue Box, because attention is currency, and they are an indie studio who has done nothing but fail and flop, who has nothing but missed promises and failed attempts to get on the market, is now looking at this conspiracy theory, looking at the swell of attention that is ripe for the picking, and they are choosing their words and their tweets wisely, and they're trying to skirt dangerously close to the line that is, let's get as close to this conspiracy as possible to drum up attention. But what they've ended up doing is playing with fire, and now they've put so much pressure on themselves that they're scrambling. And I think their PR team, being that they're a very small and, what their words, inexperienced studio, they don't really know how to deal with this or get out of it. So they've just fumbled and botched their way through their PR messaging ever since the initial abandon was there, and they're making promises they can't keep because what the expectation of this 4K 60 FPS big horror survival game, the app that came out that was just a joke where you would install the PS5 app and it would just play a video that was a pre-rendered thing.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. So that was the thing that happened. That was the quote big reveal that happened in August. Was like they released. So they've been talking about this interactive app that you can download on your PS5. And again, people were getting shades of PT, right? Like, an interactive app.
They're trying to do that. They're skirting that line. Like, let's do what PT was, and we'll just drop this app on the PlayStation Store.
Yeah, it was just an app that played the same trailer, basically. Yep. It's like, what? Yep. People are like, so it's very not, again, one would argue that if Kojima were involved, he wouldn't embarrass himself like that,
exactly.
Right?
Like, yeah, Kojima's too good for this stuff. They are clearly blundering their PR messaging. Their
I would
tweets,
say that's probably the single biggest thing here right now is that this is like, again, like, if they were founded right after the split with Konami in an effort to try to get Silent Hills created down the road, like, why just botch a bunch of game releases leading up to that point? Like, is that all misdirection? Like, no. I suppose it's more plausible to potentially believe that maybe Kojima has latched on to this failed developer all for the misdirection, right? Like all for the subterfuge, and been like, oh, I need an act this time. Because people will see through it if I just create a bogus development studio. This time instead, I'll latch on to a development studio that already exists but is failing, and instead I'll bring them out of obscurity or whatever. Like, I could maybe see that, but I can't. Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't necessarily even have to end up being a Silent Hills game. I suppose that would be my only counter quote. If I were playing devil's advocate right now, my only counter argument to what you said about Konami and Kojima, are oil and water right now. They're never going to come together to make a Silent Hill game. That's fair. This doesn't even have to actually be Silent Hills. It could just be a horror game by Hideo Kojima and would be just as successful as a Silent Hill and would be just as exciting for Silent Hill fans. If it was Silent Hill and everything but name, I think it would be just as big of a deal. Again, not saying I agree with it. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
And don't forget, the Bloober team came out and said they are developing Silent Hill.
Right. Or I thought they said it in everything but words. But anyways,
right.
So the things that like make me pause, though, the big things, again. The name things, the Google Translate stuff, all the pictures of hills and islands and stuff, like, or whatever. They are. Again, I agree with you. They could be completely explained by them just trying to, connect as much as they can, like an amateur PR campaign trying to connect as much as they can, or could even just be explained by coincidences. The things that make me weird, like make me think twice, are the fact that Sony is like backing this project. And again, I feel like a developer failing like 5 times in a row is not a developer that Sony would tend to back.
Right.
So that's a little weird. Again, the whole touting of 60 frames per second 4K resolution from a studio of 50 people, that also makes me pause. Like, okay, like, you're overpromising here again, which could just be exactly it. They could just be overpromising. And we see exactly
what they're doing.
We saw how well that worked out with Cyberpunk 2077, but it is still weird that, like, again, that is a thing that's like, okay, that makes me think for a second. And then all the LinkedIn stuff where like this company uses like stock photos for all of its pictures as opposed to actual pictures of like a workplace or people within a workplace, and the only employee on LinkedIn is Hassan himself. So like that too is a little weird. You're a studio of 50 people, none of those people are willing to put their work on this on their LinkedIn profile. That's a little weird. Okay, so those are kind of my thoughts. But do I think, if I'm going to answer final verdict, do I think it's real? No, but it would be really crazy if it was. I guess is what it boils down to for me.
This is some Smash Bros. Grinch level.
It is. Conspiracy. It is. Yeah, fool me once, fool me twice kind of thing, where I'm like, I'm not just going to necessarily take a bunch of coincidences that people have put together on Reddit as like solid evidence, but it definitely is one of those things where it's like, this would be a big deal if it was. So cool. All right. Well, our final question, we don't have a ton of time for it, but I do want to talk a little bit about what do you think this whole thing, why talk about it? Why spend time even entertaining it and talking about it? What does this conspiracy theory say about gaming culture?
The gaming culture. Yeah. everyone again, attention is currency. So there's this way, whether you're seeking attention from a famous Twitch streamer or if a Twitch streamer is seeking your attention for a bigger audience, whatever you want to lay on, a journalist outlet is seeking attention from its readers, or those people who work for that journalist are out on Twitter trying to get attention for their podcasts. I mean, it's everywhere. Like, everyone is looking for attention. The best way to get attention is to break a story first. It's to get something crazy that is out there, out on the internet first, that's actually credible, that will do it. And it's worth the risk to like throw this out there and say, okay, this could be a thing, and then have a giant following and have a giant eyes on, like the eye of Sauron is on you now, and lead everyone to you. So I think there's this obsession with how social media influences work over how games are marketed, information is disseminated, and all those things regarding the giant amoeba that is social media. That's what gaming culture is ingrained in if you follow it. Of course, that's where toxicity comes out of. So all of our previous conversations about toxicity have been like the nefarious side of that stuff. But the kind of way that it works is conversations happen on the internet, and then they get published into articles, and then conversations ensue, and then the comments go, and the tweets fly, and then there's YouTube videos that get made from it, and it's just the whole thing. And all that stuff drives attention to pre-orders, and it drives attention to games and game companies. So Blue Box is trying to look at that and kind of exploit it, really,
for sure,
to try and drive hype for their game for a marketing campaign.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good time for a reminder that Cyberpunk 2077 still sold millions and millions of copies.
Yep.
Negative attention, negative press is still press, right? And that's what people say. And my family always translated that with me as negative attention is still attention. So if I do something ridiculous and embarrassing, and people may be like, "Oh, Daniel Grathel, shame on you," but that's still attention, right? That's what they always say about me. So, and I get it. Like I get it. So that's a huge, huge, big deal. I think that the other big piece here is that there's sort of this cult of obsession with the sort of personalities in video gaming, not just on the West you have your Reggie Fils-Aimés and your Sean Layden's and Jeff Keighley's, and sorry, you're right, yes, both of them are gone actually. Your Jim Ryan and oh gosh, who are the developers?
Don't forget Tim Sweeney, Epic Games.
Right, Tim Sweeney.
Yes, Todd Howard,
Gabe
from
Newell,
Bethesda.
Yeah, and then Todd Howard. Yeah, and then you've got your Japanese personalities too, because Japan and Kojima, Sakurai, Hidetaka Miyazaki on the From Software side. So you have these personalities, these auteurs, so to speak, that are that when they make lots of successful games, people start to follow their careers and become a little obsessed with them, and sometimes in toxic ways and sometimes just in normal ways. But like the fact that we spend so much time paying attention to what they do, we pick up on their patterns. And in Kojima's case, we picked up on this pattern of secrecy and little teases beyond the sort of typical scope that we see with video games. And that is that sort of ties into just the general idea of one of the ways gaming culture has really changed thanks to the internet is you have this sort of like laser focus of fans on gaming news and just trying to find tidbits about games. So we did talk a little bit about how PR is really important, how that can be a double-edged sword. The other thing I think that I would say is that there's this idea that like rumors and leaks are easy to spread but hard to verify. So there's this idea that like, just because you see a rumor online or a supposed leak, like doing the actual quote journalistic legwork of like figuring out if that's legit, it's a lot harder to do than it is just sort of like hear a rumor and be like, wow, I heard online that blah, 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 blah. And that is how this kind of stuff happens is like, first of all, it's just little bits. Like I haven't gone to Google Translate and confirmed that Hideo translates to Karamen. Like I just taking people's word for it that that's true. Quote unquote. And like it's worth doing the extra legwork of like figuring that out sometimes when it comes to trying to sort out the truth.
How about the disappointment of the announcement of the Switch OLED model?
Yeah, exactly.
Because everybody saw the rumors and chased the rumor mill. How about the disappointment of the Metroid Prime collection not being announced?
Yep, exactly. So that's
it. Like, don't listen to the rumors and the rumor mills, or at least, hold them accountable and do your own diligence and before you buy into these things.
Yeah. And I would say the last thing that I can think of that this sort of like speaks to gaming culture is I do think that this kind of thing works, though, like not just in the negative way, but I think that there's this idea that like this is the kind of thing that people like to do on the internet. And so gaming companies would be wise to pay attention to this thing because there's a lot they could tap into here. People love scavenger hunt style marketing. People love this sort of guerrilla or viral marketing where they can take a piece and make connections on their own. People are way smarter, especially in collective, in sort of the collective hive mind of the internet. People are way smarter, I think. You don't need like the traditional style of marketing to blunt you over the head with this kind of stuff. Like,
it's fueled by reality as well, because Todd Howard announced Indiana Jones from Bethesda, and lo and behold, either it was Phil Spencer or Todd Howard himself in a video prior to that announcement, there sure enough was a whole bunch of Indiana Jones memorabilia in the background. So now it's this meme that every single time Phil Spencer speaks from his work from home camera, which has been the thing with the pandemic, there's like massive analysis done on his background. And he is even kind of bought into the thing and thought it was funny, because even the Xbox Series S, before it was showed off for the first time, was sitting on his shelf in the background, but no one knew it until it was actually like shown off. Again, the hive mind of the internet like went back and found it. Like, oh, it was here this whole time. It went under our noses. So even Microsoft is playing with this idea of like scavenger hunt style marketing within their stuff.
Yep, and it both works, and I think it's good. So this is kind of the good side of it, is like there's definitely a demand for this because it's a thing that can be really fun and enjoyable when it's done well. When it's done expertly by people who know what they're doing, it can be a really, really powerful way to generate hype, buzz, and get people talking about and obsessing over your product before it comes out. And that can, it's got its downsides, its pros and cons, but I do think in general it leads to overall better, culture. People connect. People who never would have had a conversation before are like getting online and talking about this stuff together. So I think it ultimately, is sort of a net positive. Yep. When it's done well. So anyways, that is it. That's the Blue Box Conspiracy, and we want to hear what your thoughts are. Do you think it's real? Do you think it's not real? Do you think it's a whole bunch of bogus? Are you on the fence? We want to hear the whole gamut of possible reactions to this idea. Do you not care about this at all? Is it just like, why waste your time spending a whole episode talking about this? We want to hear that as well. So please, if you have those thoughts, once again, Termite's going to remind you where you can connect and engage with us on the internet.
Go to 80bitpodsmash.com to find a link to any of your favorite podcast platforms of your choice. Follow the links to those platforms and give us a review. Write a comment about what you just asked. How do you think about Blue Box? What do you think about all this? Maybe it doesn't even matter. Does it merit a whole episode? It's up to you. Please leave those comments. Check out our social media outlets as well. Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, as well as our Discord server. You can find us there. Anywhere, leave your comments, thoughts, questions, and ideas. Knowledge bits, hold us accountable if we got something wrong or misspoke. All of those things are all totally valid. We would love to have your interactions. And then lastly, we are on Twitch, twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash, where we have a live news show on Mondays and a live gameplay stream on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. both nights. And sometimes we miss those. So you want to stay connected to us because we don't always hold to that schedule as it was kind of done during the pandemic when we had more fun. And when you had a baby and I'm moving, and so things are nuts. But at least you'll know where we will be if you're on the right social media channel. You can always expect a new episode of this podcast every single midnight on Monday mornings. We have never missed an episode. It's been over 4 years. We hit every single week at midnight. So you can always be guaranteed, rest assured, that we will have a new episode for you next week.
All right, so we are concluding our Xbox line of our series, Soul in the Console, with talking about last generation's Xbox One and all the fun, delightful context, history, and impact that console had on the industry. So we'll look forward to next week, us talking about the Xbox One.
It is as infamous as the Sega Saturn.
Yeah.
So we will talk about it. Can't wait. So to find out more details about that, we will see you next week.